slow turn me down.
Slow turn me down. So
I'm more of a concern.
You're more concerned. So, all right, a little background. So John and I met a while back through Facebook. So just, we were going to talk about topics that are hot topics. We'll run through the trends and look at your questions and call it. John's friends will be able to do it. But I don't have a
Hey, welcome to We Might Disagree with Brian and John, episode 10. Yeah, high five, man, episode 10.
They said it wouldn't
last.
Yeah.
We hit double digits. Boom, man, we got 11. Okay, well, thanks to the candidates, it's been kind of fun and interesting. Okay, so thanks for joining us today. Going to have a great show for you. Topics are going to be, as I said in the video, and in case you don't know, I usually do a video beforehand. So to kind of we're going to talk about the Fourth Amendment that was just attacked maliciously by the Supreme Court. We're going to talk about that. We definitely are going to talk about Hillary and Trump because it's just too entertaining not to. And then I believe John wants to have a topic about Black Lives Matter, correct?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so talk a little bit about that, kind of see where it goes. So anyway, Fourth Amendment, Supreme Court. So some of you probably don't know what happened. And I'm going to let my lawyer friend tell you because he's the one that informed me about it, and then I fainted. And then I'm really upset. So, John, why don't you tell us what just took place?
Well, I think it was Wednesday. Maybe it was Tuesday. The Supreme... I take it back. It was actually relatively this summer. The Supreme Court ruled in Utah versus Strife. They upheld a document or a doctrine that basically creates an exception to the exclusionary rule. Basically in the Fourth Amendment. What the Fourth Amendment does is it protects you against unreasonable searches and seizures of your person, your papers, your home, your personal effects, to a lesser extent your car. So it gives you a little bit of an expectation of privacy. And the exclusionary rule is a rule of evidence that's applied in criminal cases. And those criminal cases basically say that if it's, quote, fruit of the poisonous tree, if the police violate your laws, violate your rights with respect to obtaining evidence, if it's illegally obtained, what happens is they can't use that evidence and any evidence that follows from that evidence. So if it's, quote, the fruit of the poisonous tree, whatever that evidence is, anything comes after that's related to that is excluded unless there's was a doctrine that was developed called inevitable discovery and some variations of that. And that really just says if the police would have found this information independently otherwise from violating your rights, then it's admissible. And so that's really, for the most part, I think where...
I think that covers what the law is. So.
Yeah.
So what took place with the Supreme Court? This is where it gets scary.
In this Strife case, what happened was you had a police officer, and what's interesting about this case is the court is unanimous, as far as I can tell, in their agreement that the conduct of the police officer is unconstitutional. So there wasn't a dispute that they had no lawful basis for detaining somebody. So, which means that they didn't have a reasonable suspicion that the person had committed a crime. They didn't have any reasonable basis for obtaining a warrant from a judge. Right. So you can do searches, you can do seizures, but generally, depending upon how reasonable the circumstances are, you have to get a warrant from a judge to do that. There's some exceptions.
Well, if they think you're drunk driving and they don't, they can arrest you, search you.
Right. Or if they think that you're about to engage in some immediate harm to somebody, there's an exception there. But generally speaking, if there's no real smoke or fire, they say go to a judge, explain to a judge, get a warrant. But in this particular case, well, they held somebody, and then they discovered that there were outstanding warrants for the person's arrest. And so essentially what they tried to do is they tried to argue, and they were successful to the Utah Supreme Court in saying, look, my rights were violated, and as a consequence, this arrest is a bad arrest because they wouldn't have known that this warrant was out. So, I should not be subjected to this. And I think most people prior to this decision probably would have expected the court to find in favor of that. And so this is really an extension of the exception to the exclusionary rule. And one of the things that at some point later on, we won't do it during this session, but maybe during our next segment, I can explain a little bit about the history of the courts and how what the Warren Court did, how the Berger Court cut back on that, what the Rehnquist courts.
Just to get to it, essentially, the Supreme Court made a decision now that police can
basically stop anybody
they want who they think is an illegal immigrant, correct?
For any reason or no reason at all. They have the right to basically stop you. They have the right to request you produce identification, and then they can run that identification to see if you've committed any crime. Whereas, I used to believe we lived in America where people were presumed innocent and police had to have a reasonable suspicion before they stop people. But now the court seems to think that they have this power to do, which I think is a terrible result.
I couldn't believe it. And, it's interesting because it was the conservative side that went unanimous, and it ended up being, and it's interesting that I even say that because politics should never even come into play on the Supreme Court. Again, the Constitution's open to interpretation. I guess the way you think will do that. What I found interesting about it, and we've talked...
And I want to push back on that for a second, but I'll let you finish your thought.
So the Boston bombing, I viewed that a couple different ways. And, one of the things that horrified me, well, obviously the bombing horrified me.
Sure.
Okay, just as an American, as a runner. All right, I don't want to exclude any of that. But the aftermath of what took place was what I was witnessing was they were just going into people's homes without warrants looking for these people. And listen, America, they can't do that. They have no legal right to do that. You come in my house without a warrant, I don't care if you've got a badge, it's not going to go the way you think it's going to go. Now, I'm a cooperative person. I have nothing to hide, so there's no reason to suspect that I'm any kind of hostile person. But if they
lawfully showed up to your door, knocked on your door, and said, hey, can I look around and say, hey, knock yourself out?
I absolutely would. But what if I didn't want them to?
Sure.
What if I would ask, what are they looking for?
Right.
I would ask some questions. I wouldn't just let them in. I'm not a pro-government person. I understand we need it. I support it. I help fund it.
And there's plenty of reasons for lawful people not to want the police.
Yes, there is.
And for example, I've never taken a legal drug in my life. I've never bought illegal drugs. So I'm not worried. I could give a hair sample test that shows I've never taken illegal drugs in my life. I'm not worried about that. But if I were pulled over in a traffic stop and somebody said, we'd like to search your vehicle, I'd have to think long and hard about doing it. Not because I'm afraid they're going to find something, but what I'm afraid they're going to do is I may have spilled some powdered sugar. They're going to look at that and say, oh, we've got drugs here. We're going to impound your car.
Yes.
We're going to send this to a lab, and we're going to hold you in jail for 2 weeks until we can figure out what this is.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of good reasons for lawful people not to submit to a search.
Yeah, absolutely. And this just takes that away. And that's concerning. And so, I'm just going to go on record here. I'm going to ignore that the Supreme Court even did that and just assume I still have this right. It's just crazy to me that this is happening in America. And back to the Boston situation, people were saying, well, they were looking for these bombers. Well, let me tell you something. If this bomber's in my house, I'm going to be calling you to come and get what's left of him. So, and I think most of Americans are going to be that way. And they ended up, and that's exactly what happened. A person saw him in his boat and called the police. They never did find him. So, again, this is a severe, extreme overstep as far as I'm concerned. I don't understand. And, it's interesting because, Trump made a comment about the courts the other day, and the Second Amendment reference caused some uproar. But he does have a point, and maybe you could explain it. How does this can this ever be pulled back? Or is this does somebody have to now litigate that? And so
basically what ends up happening, and typically it doesn't happen usually right away. Just to kind of explain how the law works. And
it's going to take a guy like me getting broken into now by the police because I'm on the radio saying this.
It's going to take somebody who is arrested like this person. They don't have a reasonable suspicion. It's clearly unconstitutional. They find a warrant, and then they search the person and find drugs, like this person, in addition to this case. Taking that arrest and raising constitutional defenses which because the nature of the case that was just decided in most courts, 99.9% we're going to say sorry because of the strife decision. You can't do that. So this is permissible for the police to do it. Your argument's overruled. Then they'd have to go to the Court of Appeals, and you have to understand also that the process is that most of these prosecutions, exception of some drug prosecutions and so forth, but most of them are on the state level. So that would go from your trial court. There'd have to be a finding of guilty, sentencing. Then there'd be a post-trial appeal. Then after that appeal, you'd have an appeal, which is generally as a matter of right in every state. Then you have the state Supreme Courts would have discretionary right to review that appellate decision. They don't have to take the case, and 9 times out of 10.
So it's quite a mountain to climb.
Then you go to the federal system,
which has got no red tape.
Well, although some like this was an appeal from the Utah Supreme Court, so sometimes it can go directly to the U.S. Supreme Court, depending upon the situation. But yeah, I mean, this is horrifying.
I think
that the police can stop anyone for any reason, including clearly and unarguably illegal reasons, unconstitutional reasons.
Yeah, just I want to pull somebody over. And I think this is, I'm just really shocked that this happened. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I really thought it would have been at least been passed back down. Maybe I don't know. I haven't read. You said Clarence Thomas wrote the
right. He wrote the majority opinion.
Yeah,
and he was joined by the conservative justices on the court, Roberts, and he was also joined by Breyer, which was interesting. Breyer is a liberal justice that has a little bit of a soft spot for, I think, some law and order issues. So he's a little bit quirky in that regard.
Do you think maybe that was taking place in the last year?
And Alito's the other conservative.
You think maybe it was taking place in the last 2 years with police officers, especially recently, that maybe they're trying to grant them a little more power when there's a big move in the country to probably pull some power away from them? I mean, I
clearly modern events have colored the prism which the court uses to look at these cases. And the reason why I can say that clearly is if you look at the dissent by Sotomayor, she is clearly influenced by the arguments articulated by groups like Black Lives Matter and others that talk about the experiences of minority people and what they face every day in terms of their interactions with the police. And it's a very powerful language. Basically really gave it to the majority that, this is part of the problem in America, is that the experience of a lot of people is that the police will contrive a reason to prosecute people. And I see it. When people say there is no racism in America, what I tell people is, come with me to night court. Let's go to Town and Country.
Well,
now, how many African Americans live in Town and Country? And then go to night court and see how many African Americans are there, or Ladue, or Frontenac, or many other
I think
places.
racism is alive and well on both sides of the.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I've sued the city of
yeah.
East St. Louis for racism for their hiring practices with respect to white police officers. Yeah. And I had people tell me that they're white officers. Why would we hire them when we can hire black? I mean, it was pretty clear.
Yeah. It's and I think for the first time in a while anyway that I'm aware of, the Supreme Court just took a shot at every American. Usually there's some kind of a divide. Half the country or a portion of the country is for this or against that. This is against every single American. This is not just about low income, high income, black, white, illegal, legal immigration. I was telling somebody, we were talking about it today, and we were talking about illegal immigration. I said, well, you know what? If you look at it from a police officer standpoint of view, go to the Olympics, take everybody out of their uniforms, just put everybody in a T-shirt, and you tell me who's American and who's not. That's America. We're from everywhere, so you can't pinpoint who's legal, who's not legal by the look of a person. So we need to go to break real quick. We're going to go to break. We might disagree. It's Brian and John. We'll be right back. More to talk, and we'll see you in a minute. Thanks.
Has free checking become a thing of the past? Not if Liberty has anything to say about it. With 3 free personal checking options and even a free business checking account, free is alive and well at Liberty Bank, the local bank that gives you free checking choices and more cashing in your pocket. Bank locally, bank Liberty. For more information, visit www.bankliberty.com.
You walk onto this campus and it feels as though you're at an Ivy League institution.
It is cultured in so many ways. You would never know that it is a 2-year college.
This place is truly amazing. I love going to school here.
It is definitely not like any other community college.
If you're looking for a way for your life to change, then Lewis and Clark is the place for you to be.
At Midwest Members Credit Union, you are important. We work hard to ensure you have the best banking experience possible. Whether you are inquiring about opening a savings account or wanting to learn more about a loan, our professionals are here to help you with any questions, and we will walk you through every step of the process. Since opening our doors in 1935, we've never forgotten that our members are our most important asset, which is why we continue to excel. For all your banking needs, Midwest Members is the one place to go.
Roper's Regal Beagle, located on Godfrey Road, is the Metro East premier sports bar and grill. Open Sunday through Thursday till 2 a.m. and Fridays and Saturdays till 3 a.m. At Roper's Regal Beagle, you will enjoy some of the area's best pizza from their wood-fired pizza oven. There's also a full kitchen offering a huge variety, as well as a soup and salad bar. Sports fans, Roper's Regal Beagle is the place to watch the game. 27 TVs, NFL ticket, Big Ten, Pac-12, and streaming local high school sports.
All right, we are back with We Might Disagree with Brian and John. So, hey, we're live on Facebook, so I can see you. Look right here. I'm looking at you. I see who's talking. So if you've got a question, I'm kind of watching the comments. You want to throw one at us, I'm trying to keep an eye on, do a little better on that. Shoot that over to us. It's had a pretty good discussion about the Fourth Amendment. We'll probably bounce back into that, but I want to talk a little bit of Trump and Hillary.
Can I go?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just one more thing I wanted to kind of, a couple things I wanted to hone in on. One of the reasons why this decision is so bad is it gives police a perverse incentive to use bad police practices.
Yeah.
I mean, like any profession, there are a lot of honorable police, and there's a few bad ones. And frankly, I think the good cops know who the bad cops are.
They do.
And they probably could do a little bit of better job of maybe informing the rest of us who they are. But with Justice Thomas's opinion, where's the incentive of a law enforcement officer to not violate a person's rights? Why not just stop everybody? You know, you're in a crowd, something happens, gather everybody, search everybody, whether they have a reasonable basis or not. So I'm really appalled at that. The other thing that I thought was really interesting about Sotomayor, and this was actually a white individual, but she used this opportunity to talk about the impact in people of color, brown and African American communities, and what their experiences are with respect to this. And one of the things that she said is, look, you can understand that this isn't just something that happens in a vacuum. I mean, if people are arrested, if people are prosecuted, if people are convicted, depending upon the nature of their job, most jobs the arrests don't come in terms of employment applications, but some they do. And for some of these people, this is going to be a lifelong stigma that they can never get past. It's going to have real world consequences on their ability to get a job. And so for the court to grant this huge expanse of the exceptions to the exclusionary rule and to ignore the real world impact on people, I just think is unforgivable. And so leading to the Trump and Hillary situation, for me, I'm not voting for Hillary. I think there's character problems there, and we can go into that later on if we need to. But what's important to me is the courts, and for me, it's important that we get somebody who has a progressive civil libertarian background, because that's what's important to me is protection of individual rights. It was kind of interesting. There was some discussion on Facebook this week, and I had made a comment that conservatives took exception to, which is I said that basically I said that, you know, liberals have appointed justices that are more interested in protecting individual liberties and individual rights, and people acted like that was the worst thing you could possibly say.
But it's true.
It is true.
It's true.
It's true. I mean, there's actual data if you want to look at it. I don't usually
cite
study, but with a study, and I don't usually cite.
That in there, man.
You did, and you should. And I usually don't, you know, tout Wikipedia, but there's a decent article on Wikipedia.
I just think common sense will tell you that. You look at the way we were 20 years ago as a country, and you look at the way we are now through the courts. Things have changed, but people that didn't normally have rights, and I'll just go right, you know, gay marriage.
Right.
I mean, there's no way a conservative court ever allows that to happen.
Right.
So, you know, I see
because the way they handle that issue, and there's some merit to what they. I mean, I disagree with your application, but you can have a legitimate system of interpretation of the Constitution, which says marriage is historically a function of state governments. And the state governments have historically decided that marriage is reserved as an institution for one man and one woman. That historically is how it was always addressed.
Right.
And so conservatives are within their bounds to kind of look at it that way. Now, more progressive people say, yeah, but that's still subject to, under Loving versus Virginia and other cases, where the federal government has a limited role to make sure those classifications are being made in accordance with the Constitution, and the Constitution always evolves. And so it originally, basically, was for white guys.
Oh no, you're absolutely
that
right.
Expanded, you know.
And I think people forget that though.
Right.
And I use the gay marriage that's simple. You know, it's just simple to understand that. You know, so you know, and I think if you look at what took place with the Fourth Amendment, that was conservatives that again took rights away once again. So I tell people all the time, I mean, I'm conservative in some ways, and there's some ways that I am liberal, you know.
More of a libertarian, really.
I really am. You know, it's interesting. So before we jump into, jump into Trump, I actually watched the town hall with Gary Johnson on CNN. And I don't know, he said something on there that I really liked. And he said a few things. Actually, the two of them together are not... they're not bad. I mean, they're pretty decent people.
They're pretty presentable. Likeable.
They are. I mean, they're a good third option. I will tell you that. So somebody asked him, would he do anything with the AR rifles as president? Would he pursue, you know, reducing? And he said, there's 30 million AR rifles out there in America right now. He goes, if I were to push a law through that would make that illegal, let's just say we had 15 million people turn those in. He goes, I just took 15 million law-abiding citizens and made them criminals. He goes, I would never do that. And I thought, man, that is a good way to look at the Second Amendment. You know, you want to add some stuff, and you mentioned earlier bullets having serial numbers. I'm absolutely okay with that. Some people may not be, but again, I'm okay with it. I understand that there's a concern to some people about guns, and some of it's warranted, some of it's just lack of knowledge. Right. But I have a problem with that. I mean, because I don't tend to do harm. Right. You know, so I have no problem. You know. Some people are going to argue, well, you're still infringing on my rights. Well, this Fourth Amendment that just got passed, it's got trampled on. It's far more greater than whether or not I got serial numbers on my bullets, you know. Right. So, so Trump. So this, listen, everybody watching the show who's on Facebook, whatever. John is the only person that I will allow to criticize Donald Trump to me, and I'm going to tell you why. Because he criticizes Hillary Clinton equally, as I criticize Trump equally. So when you're trying to defend Hillary Clinton to me, and you're trying to run your mouth about Trump, you've got no merit. You're a hypocrite. Hillary Clinton's a hot mess. You can't argue that. You can say Trump's a hot mess. You can't argue that. So, but you got to acknowledge what Hillary Clinton is and the baggage that's going to come with her. You know, there's a lot. There's probably more coming.
If we trust Julian Assange,
I don't know. I don't even. It doesn't matter to me. You know. So, I mean, I think that everything Trump says is taken out of context in some situations. He's got to get better at that. I think it's when you're under that microscope, you've got to really. So his Second Amendment, I didn't take it the way it was taken, but I could see where somebody could take it that way. Right. But at the same time, I don't care if he said it that way. Obama's incited how much violence has he? I mean, he invited Black Lives Matter to the White House, and I found that appalling. Because to me, they're a racist hate group. They're no different than the KKK to me. Now, John, you can argue.
Right.
There may be people within that group that are good, law-abiding, meaningful.
To me, Black Lives Matter is just like the Tea Party. There are some wonderful patriots in America who I can understand they're being flummoxed about the current events in our country, and sincerely want the best for our country. And there are some rednecks that have no place walking around, saying what they're doing, saying what they're saying, doing what they're doing the crazy stuff that they're doing.
And what happened to the Tea Party?
And it basically, I think it sort of disintegrated because you had so many fringe groups, and then there was no real leader to it.
That's me. I kind of like the movement. Taxed enough already. I mean, that's what it stood for. I feel that way. But once it got crazy and hateful, I'm done.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to participate in anything that's hateful. I just can't do it. And, you know, I just think Black Lives Matter, I think, started out with a good intention. They picked the wrong guy, Michael Brown, to jump on. Because that was clearly the wrong one. There's probably some good ones out there they could have, you know, picked and maybe had a better push. But, you know, I think they've gotten a pretty good push because they've gotten the support of the media, the support of the president. You know, so, but for me, I just want everybody, if you can't acknowledge and listen, if you love Hillary, that's fine. You can love Hillary. I don't care who you love. That's great. Good for you. And if you love Trump, that's great. Good for you. But don't try to argue with me about Trump or Hillary. And please don't make me defend Trump. And please don't make John defend Hillary. Right. They both got issues. We're in a hot mess.
They do.
I'm worried about this Hillary thing that I saw the other day, and it's legitimate. I think it is, and I'm not criticizing Hillary. It's a genuine concern with her being helped up steps. You know, we talked a little bit before the show, John. We know that campaigning can wear you down. I think Donald Trump is running circles around her on the campaigning end of it. He's always out and about talking to everybody, which we know because he always says something stupid.
I'm not sure it's helping him, but
he's not helping him, but he's doing it. He's doing fine. And I go back to when Hillary fell and hit her head and had to wear those glasses, and they were like really thick, and now she's not wearing glasses. So, you know, is there something wrong? We don't know. I mean, she's saying some weird stuff too.
I'd like to see her medical records.
People are calling for that.
Yeah, and I think that's a reasonable request, and I think it's each candidate has a right to determine whether or not they want to release whatever records. But there's political fallout, and there should be. You know, Donald Trump doesn't want to reduce or release his tax records.
I think he's going to. Didn't he say he was going to yesterday?
I think after the audit, which who knows when that is going to be. But, you know, but my point is he has the right not to do it. But if you don't do it, and your reason for wanting to be president is because you've made a lot of money and you're good at making money and you're a great businessman because of all the money you've made, I think it's a little disingenuous not to release your tax returns. Or I think people have the right to infer from that you're not as good a businessman as you say that you are.
Well, I think you open the door. Like I said, anytime you say no to something, you're opening the door to...
Like Obama and his transcript. The man has the right not to release his transcript. If you want to think that he's not very bright because his transcript would show that he's pretty... average student?
I don't think he's an average student.
No.
I don't know if he's a legal student. But so Hillary, we need to take a break. Okay. Mr. Producer says we got to take a break. We'll be right back. Brian and John, we might disagree. Thanks.
What brand of vehicle do you drive? Ford, Chevy, Chrysler, GMC, Buick, Toyota? No matter what brand of vehicle you drive, Quick Clean at Roberts Motors can take care of your maintenance needs. And you don't need an appointment here, just drive on in. Need tires? No need to shop around. We have the lowest tire prices around, guaranteed. Stop in today and see why life truly is better in the Quick Lane. Or see us online at RiverBender.com.
Calc Institute of Technology is working for you with career programs for today's jobs. As a career student, you can expect a welcoming atmosphere with exceptional personal service, small classes with one-on-one attention, a set class schedule, and short-term programs that will get you into the workforce quickly. Calc has 2 locations for your convenience located in both Alton and Fairview Heights. For more information, visit Calc online at www.calc.edu.
Come on, guys. We're only up by 1 run. I need some insurance. Let's go.
Put me in, Coach. I can get you some insurance.
AmFam G-Man at the plate. Here's the pitch. Swing and a long one. A home run for AmFam G-Man.
Hit a home run with my team, a winning team. Let me protect your dreams. Call me, Gerard Fisher, 466-7062. Come on, Coach.
American Family Insurance.
Okay, welcome back to You Might Disagree with Brian and John. So real quick, throw this out at you. We're live on Facebook. We are live on RiverBender.com. We are live on Roku. We are live on Ed Glenn Today. And we are also live on YouTube.
RiverBender.com, right? Did you say that?
I said that one. Yeah,
Okay.
did I say that one? Is that right, producer? And YouTube. So I think we're almost at Sean Hannity level. We're still probably at Rachel Maddow, but at least we're not at...
Rachel Maddow has a very well-informed program. It caters to a very sophisticated intellectual audience, so that's not all bad.
I don't know. I don't watch it. I just know it's not very well rated.
She's probably watching you guys.
I'm
I
sure
think she is. She's looking for show ideas.
She should. I mean, she needs something to boost her ratings. They're pretty bad. I think anything. I won't even watch the Olympics on MSNBC. So
do you think McDonald's has the best hamburgers?
No.
But they got billions and billions served. They're definitely serving more people. So what you're saying is the product really should be measured by the number of people who participate in accessing the product.
I think that McDonald's hamburgers are good for some people. I do not think they're good for me because I don't eat that stuff. I don't eat any fast food if I can't help it. But when I do decide to go to a fast food joint for a hamburger, it is McDonald's. And it is usually a Big Mac and a large fry.
So why do you go to McDonald's? Is it safe? Is it a safe choice?
I don't know if it's a safe choice. It's just quick. It's good. It's routine. It's you know what you're going to get every time. It's safe. You know.
But if you had your choice, you didn't have to get it. Somebody's going to get it for you, like Chris Christie. Going to get some hamburgers for Donald Trump. Would you go to Steak and Shake or would you go to McDonald's?
Oh, I definitely would go to Steak and Shake
because they have better hamburgers.
They have different hamburgers.
But they taste better to you.
I used to go there with my parents, my grandparents. Kind of like, I was driving home the other day from Chicago, and I was looking at the billboard, and it said,
am I going to need a Kleenex? Because I'm
this is awesome.
I'm getting a little club just listening to you.
And it was an A&W, and it was Tuesday.
Coney an A&W root beer?
Well, it had a billboard. It said Coney Island Tuesday, 99 cents. And I remember going here off Elm Street with my dad and my mom, and we'd go and we'd get those... We'd get those Coney Islands for, I think they were like 29 cents or something back then. Thank you, John. And, it's just funny. I just saw that. So, no, listen, I think Fox News, although they have the top-rated shows, right? It's the top-rated cable news. Listen, it's a right-leaning cable news company. CNN is...
I don't have a problem with the fact that Fox News is right-leaning. I think that
they project themselves as fair and balanced, and they're not.
Right, which is funny, hilarious. But my problem with Fox News is their journalistic ethic. Now we can take pot shots at Brian Williams. We can take pot shots at Dan Rather and all kinds of liberal sources that have had their ethical lapses. But I just don't think that Fox News is a very good news organization. The bias doesn't bother me. And what I tell people is that, look, I don't have anything against people who want to read news that has a conservative bias, but go to reputable news sources. Go to the Wall Street Journal. Go to the Chicago Tribune.
What about I just said his name?
Krauthammer?
Krauthammer. Yeah, you don't think he's the middle
Sometimes
of the road.
he's tall. See, that's the difference between you and I. You would look at somebody like him and say he's middle of the road. I would say he's someone who's a bit of a crackpot with temporary lapses of sanity and lucidity.
But he says things sometimes that I don't agree with at all. You
Right.
know, but he's being like he can't. He's been saying from day one, Trump is bad.
Right.
And he's just all over Trump. And he,
I definitely think
he's
that he's more bright and insightful than virtually anybody else that they have on that program. And so,
Brit Hume, you don't like Brit Hume?
Brit's actually pretty good. I would say of all the people on there, he's probably, I'd have to say, my favorite.
I really like Brit Hume. I really do. I think he's a stand-up guy.
Yeah,
I do.
I think he tries to be a straight shooter. He comes at it from a conservative bias, but again, I don't have a problem with that. And frankly, I don't have a problem with MSNBC because I think they're very upfront about their bias. Their advertising is they are progressive leaning. news organization, and they don't try to hide it.
And Chris Matthews tinkles down his leg every time.
Tingles, not tinkles.
No,
That's all they're saying.
that's not what he said.
He said tingle.
I don't think
now, I know
he
that you wanted to say it's a Freudian slip, but I think Brian learned what that meant today, so we use that in a conversation. A little off-air humor.
So I got a comment here.
Sure.
I will say it. So a couple here. The bias isn't the news on Fox News; it's the commentary. That's a fair.
Sort of. But, even if you just do things like you look at I guess it's called soup or whatever, which is the graphics and the wording that's on screen and the descriptions, there's bias in that. And
Well,
one
that's,
of the
what he's
things
saying, that's what he's saying is the commentary is biased.
Well, no, I'm just saying on the news program, they still use bias in that stuff. And I think what he's saying is that up until a certain hour in the evening, they have, quote, news. Then after that, they have commentators.
Oh, you got Hannity, you got O'Reilly, you got...
Like, those people are clearly commentators.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what
Sean Hannity,
the viewers getting.
Sean Hannity, if the Republicans told him the sky's green, he'll argue for 3 weeks on his show the sky's green, it's not blue.
Right.
That's just, and that's like a Rush Limbaugh. And I got no time for anybody like that. I mean, I'll listen to it, but I'll listen. It's like me. I have listened to Rachel Maddow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like her. I don't like her.
But one thing I will say about her and her program, because obviously you haven't seen it very often, and I don't watch it regularly. It's been a while since I have. But the thing that I'm impressed with about her is she makes open invitations to conservatives to come on her show, and
she does. I've heard that. I haven't witnessed, but I've heard that.
And if she makes a mistake, she does do a correction the very next show.
Good.
And so
that's fair,
right? And that's frankly 70% of what you should ask from a judge.
No, I agree. Another interesting comment out here. Hillary's physical abilities are not the concern. She could be a quadruple amputee for all I care. Remember FDR. It's her mental state and mind that her ability to make a big decision on the fly that is a true concern.
But one thing
that's a fair thing.
No, I think that's a fair question. And one of the things that I've always contended, and one of the reasons why I predicted that Hillary would lose, is that we don't typically vote for older presidents. And one of the
how old is she? Trump's 69.
Yeah, I think she's 72.
Is she that old?
I think so. She's older than Trump by 1 or 2 years. Yeah.
Man,
my point is, if I remember correctly, I think Reagan was like 79 when he left the office.
Yeah, he was pretty old.
Yeah, and maybe a little too old. And if you look at presidents like Clinton and Obama and even Bush, those 8 years really take a toll.
Oh, yeah.
When you look at them when they first go in and then what they look like afterwards.
Even
and,
Obama's grayed out.
Now remember, and it's an extremely difficult job. You have to remember that the President of the United States is privy to the worst possible information of what's going on in the country on a day-to-day basis. And they, frankly, from both sides of the aisle, have done a reasonably good job of keeping us safe and dealing with these problems to the point where we never hear about it. I mean, it's easy when you have 9/11 happen. It's easy when you have something like Benghazi or something like that, and everybody says, oh, well, they should have done this and this and this. And 99.9% of what's done by government is never reported. It's a crisis averted, and rarely do we hear, that they stopped these terrorists before they were able to explode, the Chicago Sears Tower.
They did catch the guy in New York in Times Square with a car
Sure.
full of bombs. No, I agree. I think that...
But we don't hear most of those.
No. Well, yeah, they averted them. But I don't know if it's fair to compare Benghazi to 9/11. I mean, that's a stretch there. I mean, Benghazi, everybody knew that was about to happen. I will say that, you look at it, you mentioned the president, Obama's grayed out, man. I mean, I can't imagine getting that report every day. It's got to be difficult.
And it's your job to protect the American people, whether you're Republican or Democrat. Because if you don't, it doesn't matter who you are, everybody's going to criticize you.
Well, you're never going to get a pat on the back.
No.
You're always going to be criticized.
No.
And that's where I think Trump struggles. He can't handle the criticism.
Right.
He showed that when he got into that dispute with the Khan family,
Right.
And clearly that person was motivated to do just that. He doesn't know a thing about the Constitution he pulled out because he's a Sharia law guy. You can read up on the guy. So he doesn't respect that little book he had. But for Trump,
he's actually a lawyer.
He's
a lawyer, but actually practices in IT for a law firm.
He does.
Which did Hillary's taxes, by the way.
Right. I'm just saying that listen, it's okay. That's what that convention's about. It's all good. I mean, but at the same time, Trump should never have dumped down. I mean, it's like you almost want to attack him on Twitter and see what he does, you know?
It's sort of like walking around Las Vegas. You've been to Las Vegas, haven't you?
Yeah.
You walk around Las Vegas, and you're just walking from point A to point B, and there's 50 million people handing you flyers for every little oddity in the face of the earth. And you know, if you're a mature adult, that 90% of those things are not things that you should probably partake in. And certainly, if you do, you certainly don't want anybody to know about it. So, Trump, my criticism of him is he's not enough of a grown-up not to take the flyer and go off to the midget circus or whatever, you know. So, or is it little person? I'm sorry.
I don't know. You're the progressive.
I think I'm falling back in my politically incorrect ways. All the midgets in our audience are little people. I'm sorry. I apologize.
You know, again, I don't think they care either way. I think they're probably pretty good with it.
You think?
I don't know. I mean, maybe they call you a tall guy. I don't know. I just think, you know,
I'm sure they're calling me fat, which is deserved. You know.
Nah, still not nice. I would say, you know, that's a concern. My concern with Trump, and I've said before, and I'll say it on here again, is there's people around this guy telling him to shut up, and he's not listening.
Right.
And a good leader will listen. That's my concern. I think he has all the tools to do the things like the plan he rolled out. I like it. It makes sense. Can he get it done? I don't think he'll get anything done because nobody likes him. He's pissed off everybody. But I do think some of he's saying the things I like, and the most Americans do like. But I also think he's again, it's most Americans. He's not talking to every American, and he has to make that shift now. And he hasn't done it, and Hillary just isn't talking. You know?
Right.
She's just not talking.
She's not giving press conferences.
It's just crazy to me. And
she's playing four corners.
Yeah, she's brilliant with it. We did talk before the show, and I want to bring it up, and you didn't see it as a big deal. I see it as a very concerning situation. Maybe situation, not the right word, just a concerning event where the father of the ding-dong that killed those innocent people in the bar in Orlando, Florida, shows up in a prime seat at a rally in Florida behind Hillary Clinton. And for you folks that don't know, to get that seat behind them when they're talking, you have to be involved somehow. Okay, you just can't go, hey, I got a ticket, I'm here to see Hillary, and get that prime seat. You get stuck somewhere else. So if you're sitting right behind Hillary or you're sitting right behind Donald Trump, you've been placed there.
Ordinarily, that's how it works.
By somebody. I'm not saying.
I'm not sure it worked that way in this particular event. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't.
Well, if they
and I don't know how he ended up there. I will say that, you know, I looked a little bit into the guy's background.
Scary background.
Well, it's scary in the sense that literally he says everything from he's a wannabe, I think, leader of Afghanistan to he loves America. If he had known that his son was going to do what he did, he would have turned him in.
Which
you know,
is
so you know,
not true.
Well, you know, who knows what's true? When you say that kind of gamut, that sort of breadth of opinion, I think it just probably reinforces the fact that you're not.
Okay, well, I would agree with that, but so let's break it down. And when you break down,
the first element you have is you've got political malpractice. That you've got this guy that nobody apparently vetted to put on the stage. Let's presume nobody
and
did.
searched by Secret Service.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
And still got in.
Right. So, you and I were talking off air. To me, this is in the same category to me as when Donald Trump rolled out his campaign and he used Neil Young's song without Neil Young's permission. You know, there's things that you do. If you're a campaign, you have to have grown-ups on staff that know how to run the circus. And, you know, one of the things is you have certain kinds of stuff that you got to take control over. And why this happened and how it happened.
Well, I think there's a connection somehow. I'm not saying that.
You think she's pro-terrorist?
Yes.
You think that Hillary's pro-terrorist?
She takes money from all those people. I just was looking for. There's an
So
FBI.
you think that she's the Manchurian candidate for Saudi Arabia? Do you know what the Manchurian candidate is?
Yes, I do. I would not rule that out.
Oh my God! You don't really believe that?
I'm not saying she's that, okay? But listen, look at everything around her. Look at everything around her.
Well, time out here. Let me just cut to the chase here. What you need to understand about the Clintons is that the Clintons are always about the Clintons. The Clintons are about making money. The Clintons are about their brand. They're about having a very close circle that is not to be questioned. And so to that extent, I think that they have a tendency to take money from some unsavory people. Do I think that it colors her politics? Short term, yes. Long term, probably no. But what I would get at that, and here's what I mean by that, is, if you look at who got pardoned by Clinton, it was a cash grab.
Let's not even care about that stuff. I mean, Obama's pardoned 500 people or something. I don't even care. They're mostly drug offenders, I think, and he's not giving me any indication that he truly, and this doesn't make everybody mad, it's fine. My opinion, I'm entitled to it, that he loves America the way I love America. He hasn't given me anything to show that he wants to keep America safe. He talks it, but he doesn't. He's just a politician. He's no different than Clinton's. It's interesting. And then the Clintons are the same way. Hillary Clinton is for sale. She's been bought. She's been owned, whether it's through speaking money or whatever it is. And a lot of politicians are that way. But she's got a list that's long and dirty. And just recently with the DNC, think about what took place. And our former guest we had on here brought this to my attention, and I looked at it. So who was running the DNC in 2008?
That was Tim Kaine.
Tim Kaine. So, and who was running Hillary's campaign?
That was Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So we need to get Debbie Wasserman Schultz to run the DNC. So let's get Tim Kaine out. Well, how do we get Tim Kaine out of there?
Let's make him vice president.
Let's make a deal. So let's cut a deal. Cut the deal. I get it. And then what happens? Now you can say that the DNC committee didn't change the votes, but I would disagree to some part because they were not allowing the process to take place like it's supposed to. So it may have not changed the outcome, but
it would not have changed.
But it doesn't matter. That what still took place, and it was.
Nobody's arguing that they did it well or that it was proper or ethical. I think the argument is, did what they do have an impact on who was selected? And I think the answer to that question is no.
Well, we'll never really know because that took place. And you as a lawyer, you can argue that all day.
But here's my point, is that you raise a good point, which is true. We're not going to know. But if Bernie Sanders really believed he had a legitimate chance to challenge that process in a court of law and win, he would have done it.
Have you seen the people that have died since the DNC incident?
Oh, God. Are you really going to buy into that?
I'm just saying. People die. Terrorist dads get behind the stage. She cuts a deal with Iran. She brokers the deal behind Americans' back on the deal with Iran for Obama. She takes money from Saudi Arabia, lots of money.
I don't think that I think we should have some conversation about that. That scares me. That bothers me. So the amount of foreign money that she receives is something that people need to understand.
Investigated. Yeah. It's being looked at right now. The FBI is not going to investigate at this point, but there's still a discussion. It's not been ruled out, and it hasn't been said it's going to go. I think when
last I heard, I think Lynch said she wasn't going to investigate the Clinton Foundation, but yeah.
Lynch said that, but let's see what happens in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Let's say it happens in 6 months. I would say, she's just an evil evil woman. This deal with Iran, I give Obama credit for reaching out to Iran. I think that is it's been 30 years. You can't, one of our shows based off of that. You can't disagree forever and hold grudges.
Right.
Now, the way he handled it, horrible.
Well, one thing that we need to understand about Iran is that the best minds that study this stuff said eventually Iran's going to get the bomb. It's just a question of when. It's not if. That they were making substantial progress. We had the covert action with Israel where we screwed with their subterfuge and some of those things that put back their system for years. But at the end of the day, we had a window to work with, whether it was a year, 2 years, 6 years, 10 years, who knows. But it was somewhere in that range. And so if that's what you know, your choice is to try to get the best deal you can, knowing that whatever options you have, they're all going to be bad. And so for me, the Iran deal is the least bad option. They're all bad, but it's the least bad.
I like the Israel option.
Well, and we always have Israel as an ally, and they're certainly...
Israel was willing to take out everything they had, and we should let them do it.
Well...
We should let them do it.
Yes and no. I mean, that sounds great in abstract. And, I think Israel
What's it going to do? Create a big terrorist organization like a caliphate or something? Would that have happened? Oh, wait a minute. It already did.
But my point is that it also creates flashpoints that at some point the United States is called to have our sons and daughters step in the way to try to stop it. And so to the extent that you can diffuse those flashpoints, I think it makes sense for all of us to do that.
I think if there was a way to tell Iran, you're not getting the bomb, and we're going to work with you, but you're not getting a bomb, that would be the conversation I would
Well, that is in essence what they did.
No. They say they slowed it down. No, they didn't. They needed to stop it. I would say to Iran, I have another option that you don't want, but I'm going to give you this option. And, when you're in the United States of America, you sit from a position of power and a position of strength. You don't let a little country like Iran, they've been kicking us in the shins for...
We have inspectors on the ground. We didn't have that before.
I don't need it. What's that going to do? We had inspectors in Iraq. We still end up going in there. That ain't going to change anything. It's just going to be a different president, a different issue. I still, to this day, and maybe this is a little personal for me, I still, to this day, do not know if it was an Iraqi or an Iranian that killed my brother in Iraq. I don't know, because I know that Iran was in there funneling stuff and teaching these guys and listen, hey, we do it. I'm not being a hypocrite here. I get it. I'm not mad at anybody. I've always said, somebody invaded my country, I did the same thing they did. Okay, I don't take it personal, but at the end of the day, you're not my friend. Iran has had their fingers in everything going on, and I think Iran and I think Saudi Arabia is doing it quietly, and our government's not allowing that to get out, but it's slowly coming out.
Oh yeah, and I think at some point that's going to unravel. I mean,
oh yeah,
Saudi Arabia is on a tipping point, and it's a powder keg waiting to explode. That between trying to keep the West sort of in check, militarily and as an ally and so forth, while having a very radicalized population. Kind of the odd thing about Iran that maybe some Americans don't know is that Iran has one of the best educated populations. Their young people are very Western, very pro-Western. It's the old guard that's in charge. That's the problem.
But the old guard's not going nowhere anytime soon.
Well, play the long game.
That's what you progressives like to do. That's one thing I love about Bush. There's no long game. How long do we go with Iraq? You know what? Saddam's not a problem no more.
Because Obama tasked Leon Panetta to specifically have a task force.
Anyway. Yeah, it's I don't know. Listen, the Middle East in general is a bad situation. Where did our producer go? We're supposed to go to commercial. So I'm going to talk real quick why I have a moment before we go, because we're going to have to cut out of here pretty soon. So August 20th. So I just mentioned my little brother was killed in Iraq. He was killed in Iraq in 2004, August 22nd, on his second tour. He was a Marine, quite a good Marine, very proud of him. So I go to Iron House CrossFit in Godfrey, and if you know anything about CrossFit, it's very military, very American, very oriented around the military. A lot of veterans things. We do a lot of things called hero wads, and these are workouts of the day that we do in honor of people that have lost their life one way or another throughout the military. Corey and Kelly, the owners, had designed one for my brother, and it's everything around it. And I'm not gonna give you the details. I'll post it up later. But it's all it's around him. Like, you're gonna start out with a 1974 meter row. That's because he was born in 1974. You finish it out with a 2,000 meter run because he was killed in 2004. And there's a whole lot of work in between that. So anyway, on August 20th at Iron House CrossFit in Godfrey, which is behind the old Dixon Distributing Building, we are having his second annual Belchik workout. We've got, I don't know how many athletes that are coming to this thing. It's going to be huge. I know RiverBender is going to be there videoing. some stuff and talking to people. There's a couple other media outlets I believe they're going to be there. We've got some sponsors coming in. Derek Wada is a gentleman that, big military guy. He's got a foundation, and we're going to give the money to him. And what he does is he actually gives money to veterans to go to gyms. And we all know about PTSD, and we all know what that's like and what these people are going through. So he kind of helps them. So what I'm going to ask all of you to do is to come down August 20th around 8 a.m. till probably 2. I don't know how long it goes. And just come down there, and if you can't donate any money, that's cool. Just kind of support and cheer on the athletes that are working. I can tell you this workout is brutal. John, you were there last year. You got to witness it. Yeah. A lot of screaming, and it's not from excitement. There's obviously different modifications for everything in there. You don't have to be a super athlete to do it. I mean, we had 70-year-olds that were doing this. So we had World War II veterans there. It was really, really cool. So I would really, really personally love to have you come down and watch this.
Do you need volunteers?
I do. We need some volunteers to kind of help coordinate. It's a big event.
So even if you got like me, I've got 2 bad shoulders. I'm not going to be lifting a whole lot of weights, but I found a job. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff you do to help people. Well. So
you took care of a big area. You're helping guide people through. So I mean, if you do want to do the workout, listen, it's designed so if you know anything about the Marines, and most of you do, everything's around nobody gets left behind. So it's designed to be a 2, 3, 4 person workout. It's not really designed for you to do by yourself.
So you're supposed to basically kind of form a team, right?
Yeah, you can form a team. Now, we do it as a partner wide, so it'd be like you and I would do it together because there's always a strength and a weakness. But we had people last year that was 4 people to a team. It's a pretty hard workout. But again, you can modify everything. So I just came off of a pretty intense elbow surgery, so I'm not doing pull-ups right now. So there's 88 pull-ups in this. Don't freak out. There's another way around pull-ups, so you can do something. So I would really ask you to at least check it out. I got some videos out there. I'll put some more up. I'm going to be very aggressive advocating for it. We are a week away.
What's the cost?
You know, I'm not sure this year because they included a T-shirt with it, and I will have to ask you. I would have to ask not you, but somebody that, and I'll get that out. So
okay. And you'll have some information that you can post on the We Might Disagree board.
Yes, I will get it up tonight for you. I'll get a little video that I did. If you do pay, I want to say it's like $40, I think. But listen, we don't keep any of the money. It all goes straight to the organization. This is not something. Now you get a nice T-shirt. I'm wearing my Iron House CrossFit T-shirt. You get a T-shirt like this. It'll say Belchik on it with the got a little emblem, and then on the back of it, it'll have the actual workout that you did. So you can wear it proudly. And again, you're gonna most importantly, you're gonna help somebody, and that's the point behind it. You're gonna help somebody. So,
and last year they had some refreshments and some food.
Oh yeah. I believe it's Black Iron Barbecues for us, which is Rob Honky, if you know him.
And just so people know about Black Iron Barbecue, I mean, one of the very best barbecue organizations in the whole metropolitan St. Louis area, and one of the very best in the country. So
he truly is. I mean, he's ranked. I mean, the guy's no joke. And it's very good.
And he's no amateur. Literally, not an amateur.
And he CrossFits, so you can watch him scream. So if you can, get down there. It's right next to St. Patrick's Cemetery, right there behind the old Dixon, between Dixon Distributing, where it used to be, and Summer Sports box there. We call it the box, the Iron House CrossFit. You will not meet a finer group of people. It's obviously, John will tell you, we had some few veterans show up last year to do it, and that was my first encounter with anybody that ever had PTSD. And I got to be honest with you, it was hard for me to watch. And to think that our men and women are coming back with this is just, it's sad. So, as always, John, I'm going to give you the last word on this.
Okay.
And,
I want to leave today. We were having a show about liberty. And I've been thinking about, there's been a lot of talk about the folks that were protesting at the Muni and whether they should have done it or shouldn't have done it. And I don't necessarily agree with the politics of the folks that decided to do that. But I actually know 2 of the 4 people that were arrested. And I can tell you these are good people. They're seminary graduates from Eden Seminary, where I go to seminary. And I know these people. I've had classes with them. They're people that care deeply about important social justice issues. And what I wanted to say was that, this is America. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on, but sometimes we forget, is that we have a right to protest. And sometimes there's inconvenience that comes with that. And as a society, what we've decided is we're going to suck it up and we're going to accept it because the alternative is just too draconian. This is not China. We don't put people in jail because they're political dissidents. This is not Russia. We don't execute people who have different ideas. So you may not necessarily agree with what these folks did, but hopefully you can understand that they had a right to do what they did. And maybe a few years from now, you'll reconsider your position. So in any event.
Right, the protest is there.
Yeah.
So I agree. All right, folks, we will see you next Thursday at, well, maybe not next Thursday. I might have to change. I might be out of town. So we'll get it posted.
Yep.
Thank you very much. As always, we appreciate your time with us. And we might disagree with Brian and John. See you next week.
I'll grab the birthday cake. You bring the gift, if you're sure she's ready.
She's 16, honey, and she's earned a set of keys.
She's studied and practiced, I know, but it's a big responsibility.
When you have a teen driver, it's good to know that Madison Mutual has the insurance coverage you need.
She's ready, and so are we. I talked to our Madison Mutual agent.
Call Barry Macias, your local independent insurance agent, at 467-2874.
The more life changes, the more you need Madison Mutual.